playground.
Hooray!
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
My next guest is the DJ for one of the biggest country bands in the world. I mean, they're called Big and Rich, so the name says it all right there. Trip, as I call him, has started out in music on the opposite end of the country music spectrum, and I'm talking about heavy metal. Ivan Moody, the lead singer of the band Five Finger Death Punch, calls this guy the White Ralph Tresvant. Ralph Tresvant, of course, from New Edition. It's what Ivan calls him. When this guy was 18 years old and fresh out of high school, signed a major label deal with MCA Records and goes out on the road with some of the biggest rock bands. And I'm talking about bands that he was fans of, listening to on the radio just a few months before, and now he's hanging out with them. And one thing leads to another. It's a long journey, humble beginnings in Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Florida. And he's made it all the way to Big and Rich as their DJ. And he's also has another business endeavor that we'll talk about in a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, this week's guest on Celebrity Jobber, DJ Sinister from Big and Rich. What's up, big babes?
Yo, 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 yo.
This is funny because we've known each other for a long... How old are you, by the way?
Old enough to party.
All right, so you're not going to tell me. So I kind of think we've known each other for, 25 years?
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking...
that's definitely leaning towards my age now. So.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, anyway, it's kind of funny because we know each other well. We've known each other for a long time, but we're about to get into some stuff that I've never talked to you about and you've never talked to me about. So it's going to be interesting. First of all, does people in your world right now call you DJ Sinister? Because I don't, but what does people in your world today call you?
Well, it depends on where I'm at, I guess. You know, when I'm down in Florida, it's Trip. And then when I'm on the road, it's Cinny or Sinister, or in Nashville, it's Cinny. But, I mean, I'll pretty much answer anything at this point.
What's Big and Rich call you?
Well, sometimes it's Trip when we're not around anybody or we're just talking, or it's Sinister when we're on the road and in front of, people.
Okay.
Matter.
Okay. So, I mean, dude, this has been a wild ride that I've kind of been on with you for the last 25 years. So
yeah,
let's take a step back and pretend like we don't know each other for a minute.
Well, yeah,
and
take a big step back.
Yeah, right. Tell me a little bit about, growing up and your mom and dad, who I know, but tell me a little bit about what your mom and dad did, as far as occupation wise, and where you grew up and your life, your childhood.
Yeah, well, I was born in Illinois and I moved down to Jacksonville, Florida when I was about 3. My parents moved down there and was raised pretty much there until I was about 14 or 15. Then I moved down to Cape Coral, Fort Myers. But, there, my mom, she ran a pawn shop pretty much her whole life. She knows all about that stuff, diamonds and all this stuff. And my dad was jumping around from selling boats to selling cars. I mean, he was just sticking and moving, and they're both pretty savvy like that. So.
Right.
So, plus they were playing music. They played country music. They had a whole band together.
Oh, okay.
Band kind of thing. So I would wake up, Saturday mornings with those guys practicing in the living room and stuff. And so all the gear was just kind of around the house all the time. So
a pretty musical family. I didn't know about mom and dad being in a band, but tell me a little bit about, you got other musical ties within the family as well, right?
Yeah. My oldest brother is Greg. He plays for Mudvayne and Hell Yeah. and those guys are recently back out now, and that's pretty exciting.
So
and yeah.
So you got into music pretty much because you were around it. Mom and dad are playing in a band, musical family. When did you seriously get into music?
Well, I always kind of did it, but I just didn't think anything of it because it was just another day. You know, I'd always playing guitar and stuff because, bored or whatever around the house. I'd just start beating on the drums or whatever. And so I always kind of played it, but I just wasn't into it really. And then I moved down to Fort Myers, and I moved to Pine Island. My parents say, we're moving to an island. I go, oh, great. I'm going to be digging my toes in the sand. It's going to be awesome. And if you went to Pine Island, you know.
It's not like that, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, it was just fishing poles and dive bars and, like, people walking around with no shoes on. And, I mean, it was crazy. And I coming from Jacksonville, I was, like, freaking out because, like, it was a city life and all this. And I just came moved to this island where there was not a lot of kids, and I'm, like, 13, 14 years old. So I was going stir crazy. So I just grabbed my parents, like, big speakers and stuff and started doing some teen night down at the rec center and was DJing with cassette tapes.
Right.
Boombox. So I started doing that. And then when I went to high school in Mariner, I met the guys and I just had the PA and stuff, and they were just starting to play, and I was like, hey, I got the PA, let me just bring it over and see what happens. And
so tell us who the guys are, because the first stage of your musical career is at the opposite end of the spectrum from where you are now. The guys
were my best friends in high school. We were, like I said, we were about 14, 15, and it was Andy, Ben, and Derek, which was then Twisted Method after a while. But we were playing in high school. We started playing some shows and started, doing local things. And then it really started being a thing where we were playing out at the bars at night and then going to school.
Right.
So it started being pretty crazy. So
about 16, 17 years old, do you think Twisted Method was a thing locally in Fort Myers, Florida?
Yes. Yeah. And it wasn't until our senior year that right when after graduation or whatever, we got a record deal, was on the road.
So not only a record deal, but a major label record deal, MCA Records. You're 18 years old at the time. Was that a little bit of a culture shock? I mean, putting you on the road all of a sudden. I mean, you guys are young, and now all of a sudden, boom, signed to a big label. And it's heavy stuff, by the way, Twisted Method, if you've never heard it before, heavy stuff. So tell me, what happens when your boys and you get put out on the road, you're playing Ozfest, and you're 18, 19 years old?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is like I said, it was right after graduation, but, I didn't care about anything, dude. I'd stand up in class and walk right out the room and say, where are you going? To the library. And I just go to the library and I'm sitting there writing all these songs to, all the songs that we put on the album. And I spent my time doing that. So it was just like, it was kind of like working our way up to that no matter what. Like, it was pretty relentless. But then after we got the record deal, we went on the road on Ozzy Osbourne's tour, Ozfest. And it was like my favorite bands. So it was really just, it was surreal. I was, on my first job at that point, and then a couple months later, I'm on the tour bus. So it was really wild. So
was that your first paying job of all time, or did you work like as a regular, a civilian?
I washed dishes at Rib City.
Oh, okay. Was that your first job? Probably your only job, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the first one, but I skipped around a little bit. I did that, and I did some cabinets. I was installing cabinets, Starlight, or whatever it was. They were building all those houses at Cape Coral, so I did that for some time, and just kind of jumped around from like job to job with friends that would give me one, so they understood that if I had to go do something, I could go do it. But I went from washing pots and pans at Rib City, listening to Korn on the radio, to like going there and meeting them and hanging on their bus and stuff. So it was really awesome. That
is pretty insane. So like you really never had another vision other than music. You're talking about working at Rib Cities and building cabinets, but you're a teenager. You're just like part-time job. This was never like, you were never thinking of becoming a professional cabinet maker. It was music the whole time, right?
Yeah, it was just something to put some money in my pocket so I could stay afloat until something panned out or just whatever. I never had time to put thought into it. I knew I needed a job to pay for my gas and to pay for my girlfriend.
Right.
Or whatever.
They're expensive.
Take her out and do stuff. So I just kind of did whatever. We were getting some gigs, but they weren't paying like that,
Right.
But I mean, I've been on the bus ever since.
Did you ever think about if music didn't pan out? Were you ever a particular age where you're like, okay, if this doesn't pan out, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Did you ever get to that point or no?
No.
Good.
Like, it was almost like a time warp. Like I said, like I saw you when I was like 18, 19, and then I didn't see you again until 20 years. And it felt like I just stepped off the bus that I just got on. Like,
right.
It's just been nonstop for me. When you're young like that and you get out, like I never did taxes. There's a lot of stuff I just never even knew how to do because I just skipped it all.
So, you go from being 18 years old on a major label, big rock band, Twisted Method. You didn't take off. The band didn't really take off, but you did a lot for that young age. And you kind of bounced around, did a couple other band things. But tell me a little bit about Big and Rich, because, and also, I don't want to skip around here too much. Let's talk about before Big and Rich. You ended up getting on a reality show, and this was kind of a big deal too. You got on this reality show. How? How did you get on Daisy of Love?
Well, I was in, after Twisted Method eventually dissolved, I joined the band Dope, and I was playing bass with those guys for like a while. And it was in Chicago, and I was up there, and I was living at the studio, and and I'm watching these shows, and I just loved them. I thought it was hilarious. And then I saw the option to try out to be on one of them, and the girl was hot, and I was like, man, I'll go up there. So I ended up going to the audition, and I brought my friend Chi-Chi, and then after we went in there, was already fighting for her, like in front of everybody. Before we even walked in there to talk to them, we both got on the show. So
this was a thing that you didn't have a hookup or anything? You just like got online and said, we want to be on this show, and they ended up calling you, and you made it on?
There was open auditions in Chicago, so we showed up.
Okay.
And that was it.
Well, if you don't know anything about DJ Sinister, which you don't, but you're going to find out that even 25 years ago, myself, my friend Charlie, there were a lot of us that knew this kid and said, he's going to do something, and he's going to do something big. We weren't sure exactly what it was. And you can already hear, major record label, 18 years old. He's on a reality show a few years later. Like, things are already moving in this guy's direction. You almost won the reality show too, by the way, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was fourth runner-up. I mean, no one likes to get picked last in dodgeball, you know what I mean? It was pretty much crushed me, but it was a good time. And I kind of like, I acted it up a little bit because I was trying to work my own show in there somehow.
Well, that's what you got to do.
But they dissolved all those shows, so that didn't work out.
Well, okay, so we get on. I mean, that had to raise your profile a little bit, right? So, and
it did, but in a weird way.
Oh, okay.
It's like I was used to being respected, if respected, about my music or what I do, and now I'm just like this guy that people look at and amuse them on TV. It's like you don't really get that respect. It's not the same kind of thing, you know what I mean?
They didn't know your background. They didn't know who you were.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
They only knew who you were from that show and nothing about who you really were.
Right.
So, Big and Rich. Let's talk about this. I mean, Jesus. Again, from one end of the spectrum to the other. How do you meet these guys? How do these guys how do you become DJ Sinister and play with these guys on every show? Biggest country duo in the game, and you'll see Sinister on stage with them at every show. How did this happen?
Well, my manager and current best friend ever, Charlie P. You know him, Charlie Panaccio.
Yep.
He met us when we were kids, and he said, if I can't get you a record deal in 6 months, whatever I spend, you're free to go. It's a wash. Don't. And that was just such a cut and dry way of putting things that I knew he was for real. And after the Twisted Method thing dissolved, me and Charlie still had a great relationship. And he, goes, hey, I'm working with these guys, Big and Rich. What do you think of this stuff? And I'm listening to it, and I go, man, this stuff is amazing. This is like changing the country game straight up. And I didn't really listen to country so much then, but I knew the old stuff.
Right.
My parents.
Right.
So listening to that, it just kind of blew me away. And then I actually went out to meet the guys at one of the shows because Charlie was starting to work with them. And me and the guys just got along really well, like Cowboy Troy, John, Kenny. And, and Charlie played John some of my current stuff. And he was just like, okay. So I felt like the production-wise and stuff, he felt like I was a asset in that kind of camp.
Right.
So he ended up giving me a publishing deal, songwriting publishing deal. And then I moved to Nashville.
Okay.
So now I'm in Nashville. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do around here? I got to do something, da-da-da-da. So I start DJing some of the nightclubs or whatever that are there. And John's having a CRS party at his house, which is CRS is like a radio. All the radio guys are there.
Huge country music radio kind of party where everybody's invited all over the country, big guys from big radio stations. So. Yeah,
so both of those things kind of happened at once. So I was there DJing. He's like, yeah, you got to spin some country. I mean, this is the country radio people. So I was like, okay, I don't really do that, but all right. So I went into a studio and I made a handful of remixes just to beef them up.
Okay.
Just to, so all the beats go together. And so I started doing that stuff, and all the radio people were like, what is this? And then, Charlie, he's like, oh, this is our new thing, da-da-da-da. Bing, bang, boom, we get that radio show. But at the same time, Big and Rich jumps up to play, and I stay up there because I know all the words. I've been hanging out with the guys for a while now. So as soon as I drop the 808 and start singing the harmonies, everybody just kind of looked back at me, and then I've been in the band ever since.
That is unbelievable.
12 years ago.
And 12 years ago. And when you're DJing, obviously you're DJing country stuff. So you're mixing like country records and at this party.
I'm mixing like Honky Tonk Badonkadonk with Skrillex, and I'm like Here for the Party mixed with like Flow Rider, because it's the same melody and everything.
Right.
And it was just this concoction of like dance stuff. It was pretty nuts. But
wow. So that was it. That party.
Another thing.
That party put you on the map, pretty much.
Yeah.
Do you think
I got the job with them guys, and I got the radio show all in one swing?
And the radio show is Southern Fried Mix.
Country Fried Mix.
Fried Mix. Sorry.
And at one point we had a lot of stations all over the country, and it was a lot of fun.
So. Let's back up a little bit to the 12 years ago. You're at that party. Would you say, because I mean, like I said before we even got started, there's so many little things that happened to you in your life that kind of raised your profile and got you kind of, out in front of people. What do you think like it was like your big break? I mean, Big and Rich. I mean, you can't get any bigger than that. I mean, it says it right there in the song, in the name of the band. I mean, it spells it out for you right there. So what was that party like your big break in quote unquote life? Do you consider that your big break?
I don't feel like I've had a big break yet.
Really?
I feel like I'm pleased with everything I've done, and it's been so much fun. But when I guess I have had a break. I mean, the break is washing dishes and being on a tour bus. That's the break. Right. Because I really haven't been back since. But different things and different vibes have been happening, and I've been all about it. But I'm starting to feel like I need to put something out myself. Okay. It's been a while. So I've been working on a couple different things, and they're supposed to come out next year. Some country things and some rock things. Really? Country and rock? Okay. Yes, two total separate bands. Music. So you honestly think that everything's great, you're successful,
You've been doing this stuff for a long time, but you don't feel like you've actually hit your big moment as of yet.
Well, I'm really grateful that I've done everything, and it's been awesome. I've always been kind of part of a crew, so I am looking forward to kind of being out there by myself a little bit and doing some things like that. But yeah,
Wow.
So big break. I don't know if I even care about a big break anymore. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff, and I'm really happy with my life, and I really feel like the next step is just getting comfortable and doing what I love and singing and writing songs and just having people hear them and being able to take care of my family with that.
Wow. I'm just I'm a little shocked. Like, not shocked, because I know who you are, and I know that you have this certain star power. You walk into a room, you got a great personality, everybody's drawn to you, everybody wants to talk to you. So I can kind of see that you want to get to another level all on your own. Is that scary? Do you think about that being scary? Because you're part of a crew, like you said, so kind of pressure's off a little bit. But when you are out on your own, it's you. So is that scary to think about?
No, because I'm not like, well, when I was younger, I felt like I wanted attention. I wanted to be the guy. It was always that. I don't really feel that way anymore. So I don't feel like I'm up against anything, because I'm not trying to be anybody, or I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just going to put out some good stuff that I feel has a shot to be something and have a decent swing at something. But I mean, that's it. I mean, I don't really care about like my fans. Like I don't think of myself that big of a person that need to take myself that seriously. You know what I mean? I do. And I think that's part of your success. I think that's why you've kind of stayed around in the game, and you've kind of pivoted a little bit here and there, and then you've reached, the level that you're at right now. I think there is more to come for you. And, speaking of that, you do other things. You're not only DJ Sinister with Big and Rich. You are also somewhat of an entrepreneur, because I've seen some of the stuff that you're doing. And tell me about making hats, because this is kind of your thing now. And I'm like kind of amazed, and I keep like texting you, saying like, send me one of these hats. Like, they're really cool. They're like a cowboy hat / rock and roll kind of Southern rock kind of. Tell us about the hats, what you call them, and where you can buy them. Well, it's just Hats by Sinister. I started doing it during COVID. A friend of mine was making hats, and me and him kind of got together. He showed me how to do it, and then I just kind of went off on my own. So it's Hats by Sinister on Facebook and Instagram. It's fairly new. I've been making it for a while, but the stuff I was using, all the blocks, they're like a lot of money. I mean, it's crazy how much stuff just to make a hat.
I bet.
So I've been slowly collecting what I need, and I got everything in order now, and I put my page up actually a few days ago. So it's been a lot of fun. I've been working on hats the last couple of weeks, and been jumping on the bus and just kind of going back and forth.
Man, it seems like you got a passion for it, though, because the hats are really cool, and it seems like you're all in on it.
Well, it's just, it's just something I can do on my time. Usually I'm writing music and stuff, but now it's like something that I can do that isn't that I can kind of go back and forth and, space myself out a little bit.
Of all this stuff that we've been talking about the last how many years it's been, Twisted Method, Ozfest, reality show, Big and Rich, all this stuff. Is there like one crazy, like what's the craziest thing that has happened to you or that you've been a part of in this whole wild ride that you've been on?
I mean, honestly, it's being with Big and Rich, because it's such a, if anybody knows where I come from, it's such a curveball. But I mean, I do owe those guys a lot of gratitude, man. I mean, they took me in for that stuff, and they're just great guys. I've been in it for 12 years, and I've just built such a good relationship with those guys, and that it's allowed me to, have an income and have my face out there while I try to figure out what I want to do for myself as far as, music or whatever. So those guys have been really lenient. If I got to miss a show for a certain reason, those guys are cool. Like they just made it easy for me the last 10 years to focus on other things as well as stay in the light.
And you've had some crazy party moments with those guys, haven't you?
There's been a few, but not
bet.
so much anymore. But back in the day, there was a couple good ones.
I bet, man. I bet. Well, look, I think, I'm proud of you. I've known you since you were a teenager and always knew that you were going to do good things and big things. And again, with being with Big and Rich, DJ Sinister, every show that they're doing, you'll see. What's that?
College Game Day. Me and Charlie produced those the last few years.
I mean, how cool is that stuff?
Oh, man, it's awesome.
So continued success. I'm proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. And don't forget to send me one of them fucking hats.
I won't. Hey, by the way, I saw you had Cowboy Troy on the show, right?
I did have Cowboy Troy, and you know what? He told me his big break happened when he was at Foot Locker. He was working at Foot Locker and got the call from John Rich to say, pack your shit, you're coming on the road. And he was listening. He had to make the phone call because he got bad reception in the mall. He had to make the phone call from his old beat up car, and he thought it was a joke. But that was his big moment that changed his life. And he said when he got on the tour bus, he kept his Foot Locker jersey with him to remind him that if he screwed up, he'd be back working at the mall. So I love Troy. He's great.
I love Troy too, man. He's awesome. And, we got the same middle name and the same birthday.
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The only difference is you're not a...
Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I was going to say twins, right? He's a 6'5" black rapping cowboy, and you are not.
Yeah, but he has that album King of Clubs that me and Charlie produced that, and Troy, I wrote some stuff with Troy on there, and so if anybody's listening about that, go check that out. King of Club. It's really nice on the boat, having a couple beers, floating down the river, checking it out.
It's up my alley. I'll have to check it out. Again, buddy, thanks for picking up, and continued success. And I'll send you my address for one of them hats.
I'm down, brother.
All right.
Good talking to you, man. Hope to see you soon.
There he is, DJ Sinister. I call him Trip. I call him Big Babes. We go way back. He is now the DJ for Big and Rich, last 12 years. Musical family. I know both his mom and his dad. She was working in a pawn shop, still thinks she does that. And Greg, his dad, sells stuff. He says he's a real mover and a shaker. Great family. They grew up, basically, Trip, born in Illinois, grew up in Jacksonville when he was in high school, moved to the Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Florida area. That's when he met his boys, who became a band, signed to MCA Records when they were 18 years old. The band was called Twisted Method, hardcore metal band. I mean, completely different story from what Big and Rich is. The guy's musical, the guy's talented. Like I said, it was we always knew this guy was going to be something from the time he was 16 years old. And here it is. It's true. He's done so many different things. His big break, what is kind of interesting, he does not think it's come yet. I mean, I would say when he was at the CRS party, playing, opening up for Big and Rich, who invited him to do this. This is a huge, huge country radio get-together. All the biggest big wigs from all over the country attend this party. So I would have to say that was his big break, when he's mixing, country music with, hip-hop stuff or R&B stuff, dance stuff. And people were kind of blown away at that party. He stayed on stage when Big and Rich came on stage to play their songs. He stayed there, sang some harmony, and the rest is history. So it's a really, really incredible story. He's got his own radio show, Country Fried Mix, as he said. He is a guy that I believe him when he says he hasn't had his big break yet, even though that CRS party in Nashville that we just talked about, that kind of put him out in front of all of those radio people, Big and Rich, were like, whoa, this guy's, this guy's got something. I definitely think he's right to where we're going to see something else from him in the very near future. Yeah, you know who he is, but I have a feeling you're going to really know who he is in the next few years because he is that talented. If you ever hear him sing, it's kind of amazing. You don't think that this guy has like a kind of a Michael Jackson vibe to him, but he does. Incredible singer, incredibly talented, and again, I'm real proud of him. You got to check out some of his hats. They're pretty cool. Hats by Sinister. It's up on Facebook or his IG, which is at Sinister Rocks. So thanks again for listening, everybody. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and please leave a review. All past episodes are online at celebrityjobber.com, on Instagram, Celebrity Jobber Podcast, and available on
The Podcast Playground.